The alien girl offered her sleeping bag to the human. What happened next was surprising. Human explorer Daniel Harper stumbled against it, his gloved hands gripping the remnants of his damaged spacecraft. Sparks hissed from the fractured panels, and the air was so cold that even his advanced suit struggled to maintain warmth. He cursed under his breath. The navigation systems were dead, communications offline. Every part of this planet seemed intent on testing him, and for the first time, Daniel felt the heavy weight of being alone. The darkness settled faster than he expected. A deep purple night sky stretched endlessly, dotted with two moons that barely illuminated the jagged terrain. He shivered, pulling his jacket tighter. Survival on Xyler 7 required more than technology. It required instinct, and Daniel had relied on machines too much. Now without them he had only himself. A sudden movement caught his eye. A shadow darted across the rocks, a small figure moving with a grace that was almost unnatural. Daniel froze. He had expected the planet's wildlife to be dangerous, but he had not expected someone like this. The figure emerged from behind a boulder, a young girl. Her skin was pale blue, with faint markings that shimmered in the moonlight. Her eyes were large and golden, reflecting the dim glow of the moons. She looked no older than 16 in human years, but Daniel sensed a sharp intelligence in her gaze. The girl stopped several meters away, holding something in her hands. A bundle of fabric rolled neatly, glowing faintly under the light. "Hello," Daniel said cautiously, his voice rough from shouting into the wind earlier. I need help." The alien girl's ears twitched. She tilted her head, studying him with an expression that was both curious and cautious. Her species had always been wary of humans. Few had survived long enough to be seen up close. And yet, there was something in his posture, the way he faced the storm, that made her hesitate. Without a word, she stepped closer, holding out the rolled bundle. "Take it," she said in her melodic, soft voice, almost carried by the wind. "You need warmth," Daniel blinked. Thanks," he hesitated. "Are you sure? I don't want to take it," she repeated firmly. Her golden eyes held an unspoken warning. No argument. With a cautious nod, Daniel accepted the bundle. It was surprisingly heavy for its size, woven from materials that felt both soft and impossibly insulating. His fingers brushed against hers for a moment, and he noted how small and fragile her hands were. "Thank you," he said, rolling it open. This might just save me." The girl didn't smile, but there was a small flicker of relief in her eyes. She turned and gestured for him to follow. Together, they navigated a narrow canyon, the wind howling around them like a living thing. Daniel stumbled once, nearly falling into a shallow crevice, but the girl caught him with a swift motion. Her grip was gentle but firm, her eyes scanning him as if measuring his strength and endurance. They reached a small cave, partially hidden by jagged rocks. It was just big enough for two people. The girl motioned for him to enter first. Once inside, the wind was muffled, replaced by an eerie calm. Daniel unrolled the sleeping bag and slipped inside, feeling an almost immediate warmth spreading through his body. "This is incredible," he muttered, marveling at the material. It seemed alive somehow, adjusting to his body heat and forming a perfect cocoon around him. The girl sat a few feet away, cross-legged. Her gaze didn't waver, yet she didn't make a move to join him. Daniel studied her, curious. "So, you live here, alone?" Her eyes flicked to the cave entrance, scanning the storm. "Yes," she said finally, "mostly. My people live far. I stay here to watch the land, to keep it safe." "Your people, are they dangerous?" Daniel asked, his curiosity rising. She shrugged. "No, not dangerous. But cautious. They don't trust outsiders, especially humans." Daniel laughed softly. "Yeah, that makes sense. I wouldn't trust me either if I saw me." The girl tilted her head again, studying him. "You survive differently." Daniel frowned. "Differently? What do you mean?" "You are human. You're kind, you are weak, but strong too." She didn't elaborate, but her eyes betrayed fascination. Daniel chuckled, rubbing his face. Weak. You've clearly never been on a planet with freezing nights, sandstorms, and predators that eat humans for breakfast. She stared at him, her expression unreadable. Yet you survive. Daniel felt a small spark of pride. He had faced tough planets before, but none quite like this. Yeah, he admitted. We humans, we find a way. A silence fell between them, broken only by the distant howl of the wind. Daniel unrolled a small ration pack, sharing a piece of dried protein with her. She took it delicately, sniffed it, then nodded once. "You trust me?" he asked, curious about her cautious behavior. She shook her head slightly. "Not fully, but you are not like others," Daniel grinned. "I'll take that as a compliment." As the night deepened, a strange sense of calm settled over the cave. The storm outside seemed less threatening now that he had some warmth and unexpected company. He unrolled a small multi-tool, inspecting his damaged equipment. "If I can fix this," he muttered, "I can call for help." The girl watched silently, her large eyes reflecting the faint glow from his tool. "Why humans are so clever?" she asked, almost to herself. Daniel paused. "Clever, I guess we have to be. We survive because we think, adapt, and keep trying. That's what makes us human." Her gaze lingered on him, thoughtful. "Adapt, survive, think," she whispered. Her species relied on instincts and traditions, not constant innovation. She had never met someone who could improvise so naturally in dangerous conditions. Suddenly, a loud rumble echoed through the canyon. Rocks tumbled down and the ground shook slightly. Daniel jumped to his feet, pulling a small scanner from his pocket. The storm outside had triggered a minor landslide nearby. "We need to move," he said urgently. "This cave won't last if the storm keeps this up." The girl nodded, standing gracefully. "Follow me." She led him deeper into a narrow passage, her steps quick and sure. Daniel struggled to keep up, but his endurance carried him forward. They emerged into a small alcove, protected from the worst of the wind. Daniel set up a temporary fire using sparks from his multi-tool. The alien girl watched him work, her eyes wide with curiosity. You make fire differently," she noted. "Humans, we improvise," he said with a small smile. "Sometimes fire, sometimes tech, whatever it takes." The girl tilted her head, intrigued. "You survive because of mind." "Yes," Daniel said simply, "because of the mind and because we don't give up." She was silent for a moment, studying him. Then, with a soft motion, she adjusted the sleeping bag around him, ensuring it would stay snug even with the wind. "Do not give up," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm. Daniel smiled, feeling a warmth that wasn't just from the sleeping bag. "I won't," he said. "Not tonight, not here." Hours passed. The storm raged outside, but inside the alcove, a fragile bond was forming between human and alien. They shared quiet moments, exchanging stories through gestures and broken words. Daniel learned her name was Lyra, though he struggled to pronounce it correctly. She learned his, though she repeated it carefully, savoring the sound. By the time the storm began to ease, dawn's faint glow crept across the sky. The wind softened, leaving only a gentle chill. Daniel stepped outside cautiously, scanning the horizon. The landscape looked different in the early light, harsh, yet beautiful. Lyra stood beside him, her golden eyes catching the sunrise. "You survived," she said softly. "I had help," Daniel replied, looking at her. "You gave me this," he gestured to the sleeping bag. "You saved me." She shrugged lightly, though a small smile touched her lips. "Maybe humans are stronger than I thought," Daniel laughed softly. "Stronger because we have to be, that's what makes us us." Lyra studied him in silence for a moment longer, then nodded. "Tomorrow you see more. I show my people. They not believe humans can survive." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Show me your people, that sounds dangerous," she nodded. "Yes, dangerous, but you survive. You human are different." Daniel felt a thrill of excitement. He had come to Xyler 7 expecting danger, isolation, maybe death. Instead, he found an alien willing to trust him, and a chance to prove what humans could do. As they settled back into the alcove, Daniel realized something important. This was no ordinary survival story. This was a test, not of strength alone, but of ingenuity, courage, and the human spirit. And if humans could survive this, maybe the galaxy underestimated them too. The wind howled once more outside, carrying a whisper of challenge. Daniel Harper, human explorer, smiled beneath the hood of his jacket. Whatever lay ahead, he would face it. He always did. And Lyra, the alien girl who had offered her sleeping bag without hesitation, she would see, in the days to come, just how surprising humans could be. The first light of Xyler 7 dawn cut through the jagged horizon, casting long shadows over the rocky plains. The storm from the night before had left behind a quiet, eerie calm. Daniel Harper adjusted the sleeping bag. He had reluctantly returned to Lyra after her brief instructions the previous night. Its rare material had kept him alive, and now, oddly, it seemed less like a tool and more like a symbol of trust. Lyra stood nearby, her golden eyes scanning the horizon as though she could read the land itself. "We move now," she said softly. Her voice carried authority even though she was young. "My people see you, they not trust." Daniel nodded, securing his gear. "I expected that. Let's show them humans survive and think." The terrain was difficult, sharp rocks and deep crevices stretched across the plains. Despite this, Lyra moved with unmatched agility, almost as if the planet itself responded to her steps. Daniel followed, careful but persistent. Every slip he caught, every rock he scaled, reminded him why humans were natural problem solvers. Necessity drove invention and danger honed instinct. As they traveled, Lyra finally spoke again. "You, not afraid of creatures," Daniel chuckled. "Afraid, sure. But fear helps you survive. You respect danger but don't let it stop you," she considered his words. "Your kind's strange, most humans die quick." "Maybe," Daniel said, his tone calm, "but some of us don't give up, we adapt." Lyra studied him in silence for a long while, then finally nodded. She led him through a narrow canyon which twisted unpredictably. Suddenly, a loud screech echoed around them. A creature, massive and with long, serrated limbs, emerged from the rocks. Its eyes glowed red in the dim light, and its claws dug deep grooves into the stone as it advanced. Daniel froze for a fraction of a second before moving. His mind raced. He had only a multi-tool, a few ration packs, and his wits, but he had survived worse. "Stay behind me," he whispered to Lyra. "I have an idea." The alien girl's eyes widened, but she obeyed. Daniel quickly scanned the creature's movements. It was fast but predictable in its hunting patterns. Using loose rocks and debris, he created a small trap, a simple but clever pitfall disguised by thin branches. The creature lunged. Its claws hit the branches, the ground gave way beneath it, and it tumbled into the trap. It thrashed violently, but the pit was deep enough to contain it. Lyra gasped, "You humans think fast." Daniel wiped sweat from his brow. "We survive by thinking fast, not just by strength." For a moment, Lyra's respect for him grew silently. She had seen humans only in stories and records. Few had survived long enough to reach her territory. And yet, this one, he was different. They continued cautiously. Soon, they reached a plateau overlooking a dense alien forest. Lyra pointed toward the distance. "My people there, they see you now. They not believe humans survive long." Daniel squinted, spotting structures that seemed natural but were clearly modified by intelligent design. Towers of woven metal and stone, suspended bridges, and small settlements clung to the cliffs. Shadows moved, figures larger and stronger than Lyra, their eyes glowing faintly like hers. "They'll test me," Daniel said, already preparing himself mentally. "Let them." They descended toward the settlement carefully. Lyra led him through hidden paths, but soon they were spotted. A group of aliens approached, their expressions stern. One stepped forward, taller than the rest, with markings of authority across his chest. "You human," the leader said, his voice resonating like a low bell. "Why here, you weak, you die," Daniel straightened. "I'm here to survive, and to show you humans are not just weak. We adapt, we think, we endure." The leader laughed, a harsh, guttural sound. "Endure, your kind falls fast. We will see." Lyra stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on the leader's arm. "Wait, he survived Xyler's storm. He helped me. He different." The leader's golden eyes flicked to Daniel. "Different maybe, but prove survival, prove strength." Daniel smirked slightly. "Strength. It's not always muscle. Sometimes it's the mind. Watch." Before the leader could respond, Daniel noticed the alien settlement had an unstable water conduit above them, a cracked pipe spilling dangerous, corrosive liquid into a trench below. It threatened to collapse part of the settlement. Without thinking, Daniel grabbed nearby tools and debris, fashioning a quick temporary dam to redirect the flow. He worked fast, improvising with alien materials he barely understood. Lyra watched in awe. The leader's jaw tightened. Humans rarely adapted so quickly to alien technology, yet Daniel's actions prevented a small disaster. "You human clever," the leader muttered reluctantly. "Maybe survive longer than expected." Daniel wiped his hands, breathing hard. "Clever, yes. But it's not magic. It's observation, understanding, and thinking. That's what humans do." The rest of the alien onlookers whispered among themselves. Lyra's people had always relied on instinct and tradition. Improvisation was rare. To see someone survive, adapt, and solve problems in real time, it was astonishing. The leader finally gestured. "Enough for now. Come inside. Learn or fail." Inside a large hall, Daniel noticed strange devices and panels, alien tech he had only seen in fragments before. Lyra translated briefly. "They test outsiders. They see if you survive and learn." Daniel nodded. He had survived planets with poisonous atmospheres, collapsing habitats, and predatory creatures. A test by alien intellect was new, but he was ready. The first test was simple yet devious. A room filled with shifting platforms, narrow beams, and gaps too wide for any average alien to cross easily. The challenge: cross the room without touching the floor, where unknown energy pulses could incapacitate anyone. Aliens hesitated. Daniel studied the patterns carefully, noticing timing, speed, and subtle cues. He adjusted his weight, used his multi-tool as a balancing aid, and slowly, surely made his way across the room. Lyra's jaw nearly dropped. "No human cross like this," she whispered. "Focus," Daniel muttered. "Think, not rush." He reached the other side without incident. The aliens murmured among themselves. The leader raised an eyebrow. "Perhaps humans more than we thought." Daniel smiled faintly. "We are more than what we appear. We survive because we adapt." The next challenge was mental. Alien logic puzzles, symbolic codes, and shifting patterns. Most outsiders failed within minutes. Daniel paused, analyzed the symbols, and began mapping them using scratch marks on the floor. Slowly the patterns emerged. He solved the sequence just as the others watched, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and awe. Lyra's eyes shone. "He not just survive, he learn." "You learn fast," the leader admitted begrudgingly. "Maybe humans clever, maybe survive." By the end of the day, Daniel had not only completed the tests, but also helped the aliens improve some of their systems. Simple adjustments, inspired by human logic, that they had never considered. That evening, Lyra led him back to a quiet lookout. The sky was a deep violet and the moon shone gently. "You impress my people," she said softly. "They respect humans now a little." Daniel leaned against a rock. "Respect, that's good, but I didn't come here to impress anyone. I came to survive and to show what humans can do." Lyra smiled faintly. "You survive not because of strength but because of mind. And courage," Daniel chuckled. "Courage maybe, but mostly humans never give up." They shared a quiet moment, the alien girl and the human explorer, watching the strange beauty of Xyler 7. Despite the challenges, the fear, and the unknown, something extraordinary had begun. Daniel's presence had sparked curiosity, admiration, and perhaps even change among Lyra's people. And for Lyra, the lesson was clear. Humans were not merely fragile outsiders. They were clever, adaptable, and surprisingly resilient. As the night deepened, Daniel set up his sleeping bag again, feeling the warmth that had saved him before. Lyra sat nearby, silently observing him. "Tomorrow more tests. Harder, you survive again?" she asked. Daniel smiled beneath his hood. "Tomorrow we'll see. Humans survive against odds." Lyra nodded slowly, her golden eyes thoughtful. She had seen storms, predators, and danger before, but never a human endure and adapt so naturally. And she realized, quietly, that the galaxy had underestimated humans, in ways no one could have predicted. And as the twin moons glimmered overhead, Daniel Harper drifted into a deep, cautious sleep, ready to prove the human spirit, resilient, clever, and unstoppable, once more. The day began quietly on Xyler 7, but the air was tense. Daniel Harper stood at the edge of the alien plateau, watching Lyra move swiftly between observation towers, her golden eyes alert. Her people, stronger and larger than her, had been cautiously curious since yesterday. Now they were ready to test the human fully, to see whether he could survive and even thrive where their kind had doubts. "You ready?" Lyra asked, standing beside him. Her tone was soft, but her eyes were sharp, reflecting a mixture of concern and awe. Daniel adjusted the straps of his pack, checking the supplies he had left. "I'm always ready," he replied, though his heart raced slightly. He had survived storms, predators, and mental challenges, but this test would push him further than anything before. Lyra nodded. "Then come. The path dangerous, but if survive, they respect humans more." The path before them was jagged and treacherous. Sharp rocks jutted out at strange angles, and the wind swept across the cliffside with renewed strength. The alien leader had warned Daniel. One wrong step and the fall could be fatal. But Daniel wasn't just any human. He was resourceful, observant, and unafraid to adapt. Step by step, they navigated the rocky trail. Daniel noticed subtle signs, slightly loose stones, worn grooves, that indicated safe paths. He used his multi-tool to stabilize precarious rocks and even fashioned a small rope from spare materials to aid crossing a particularly narrow bridge. Lyra watched silently, astonished by his calm in the face of danger. Finally, they reached a massive chasm. Across it, the hidden settlement of Lyra's people sprawled like a fortress built into the cliff. A series of floating platforms connected it, swaying slightly in the wind. Beyond that, Daniel could see towering cliffs and deep, shadowed valleys. "First test, across the chasm," Lyra said, her voice barely audible over the wind. "Your speed, strength, mind, all needed." Daniel studied the platforms. The spacing was irregular and some appeared damaged. One misstep and he would fall into the abyss below. He glanced at Lyra. "We can do this. Carefully but quickly. Watch me first." With careful calculation, he jumped onto the first platform. His weight shifted, balancing instinctively, and he moved smoothly to the next. The platforms creaked, groaning under his weight, but he kept calm. One hand pressed against a floating rail, the other holding tools for stability. Lyra's eyes widened. "No human survived like this," she muttered under her breath. Daniel reached the midpoint, glanced back, and noticed Lyra preparing to follow. He shouted, "Trust your instincts. Move like the wind, not like the rock." She nodded and sprang forward, her movements swift and precise. For the first time, she looked to him not just as a survivor, but as a teacher. He guided her verbally, pointing out which platforms were sturdy and which would tilt. Together, they crossed safely. But the challenge wasn't over. Beyond the chasm lay the true test, a collapsing alien training hall, rigged with dangerous energy pulses designed to stop intruders. The moment they entered, lights flashed, beams shifted, and the floor changed beneath their feet. Daniel's mind worked quickly. He observed the patterns, the timing of the energy pulses, and the shifts in the floor. Using scraps of alien metal, he built temporary bridges and supports in seconds. His movements were precise and fast. Where others would have panicked, Daniel thrived. Lyra followed closely, sometimes gasping as a panel shifted dangerously beneath her feet. "You think too fast for humans," she exclaimed. He smiled faintly. "Humans survive by thinking, not just by fighting. Observe, adapt, act." At the heart of the hall, a massive energy barrier pulsed with dangerous light. Past it lay a control panel, the key to deactivating the hall's traps. Daniel approached carefully. Using alien logic he had studied yesterday, combined with his improvisation skills, he manipulated the controls. A loud hum signaled success. The energy beams powered down, leaving the hall safe. Lyra's people watched from above. Even the leader, stern and usually unmoved, leaned forward in astonishment. He muttered to another, "Humans more clever than we imagined." Daniel didn't stop there. He inspected the hall, noticing several weak structural points that could collapse if the building was used improperly. Using his ingenuity, he reinforced critical areas with alien materials and his own tools. By the time he finished, the hall was not just safe, it was improved. Lyra stared at him in disbelief. "You not just survive, you help improve our world," Daniel shrugged. "We humans like to solve problems. Danger inspires solutions." The leader finally descended from his vantage point. "Human, you exceed expectations. Not only survive, but adapt and teach. Rare, very rare." Daniel wiped sweat from his brow. "I didn't do it to impress anyone. I did it to survive and to show what humans can do when pushed." The leader nodded slowly, a sign of respect that was rare among his kind. "Then you our guest. And humans perhaps not weak, perhaps clever, perhaps worthy." Lyra's expression softened, a smile touching her lips for the first time. She had known Daniel was different, but now everyone else had seen it too. Humans were not just fragile outsiders. They were intelligent, adaptable, and brave beyond imagination. That evening, Lyra led Daniel to a hidden grove outside the settlement. Strange bioluminescent plants lit the area in soft blues and greens. It was quiet, serene, and for the first time Daniel felt the planet's beauty without danger pressing on him. "You survive all," Lyra said quietly. "Storms, predators, tests, you human, amazing." Daniel looked at her, smiling. "Humans survive because we don't give up. We think, we adapt, we endure, that's who we are." She sat beside him, golden eyes thoughtful. "You teach hope to us. We see humans different, not weak, not fragile, strong, clever." Daniel nodded. "And I've learned too, your people, resilient, smart, and careful. Together, humans and your kind could face almost anything." They shared a quiet moment, the twin moons reflecting in the bioluminescent glow. A mutual respect had formed, a bridge between two species. Daniel realized this small gesture, Lyra offering her sleeping bag on that stormy night, had sparked more than survival. It had started understanding, trust, and admiration. The next day, the leader invited Daniel to address the settlement. He spoke with measured words translated by Lyra. "Humans not only survive, they improve, adapt, and endure. Our kind should learn from them." The crowd murmured in agreement, impressed by Daniel's feats and bravery. Lyra stood proudly beside him, her trust complete. For her, humans had gone from unknown outsiders to beings worthy of admiration. Daniel knew he had proven something more than survival. He had shown that humans, clever, resilient, and persistent, could stand out even among advanced alien civilizations. Small acts like kindness or ingenuity could create trust and reshape perceptions. As Daniel prepared to leave the settlement to continue his journey, Lyra handed him a small package, the very sleeping bag she had given him in the storm. now reinforced and inscribed with alien symbols for protection. For protection, she said softly, and respect. Always remember humans strong. Daniel took it, touched lightly. I will, and I'll remember the first human to show me that aliens can be friends too. They shared a final nod. He stepped onto his ship, glancing once more at the settlement, now peaceful and glowing under the twin moons. As the engines powered up, he felt a surge of pride, not just for himself but for humanity. The galaxy might underestimate humans, but here on Xylar 7 he had proven their worth. Clever, resilient, and brave, humans were capable of surviving, adapting, and even inspiring trust in alien worlds. And as the ship rose into the stars, Daniel knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere out there, countless planets awaited, and humans, armed with ingenuity, courage, and persistence, were ready for them. Lyra watched him go, her golden eyes reflecting awe and admiration. She had given him a sleeping bag in a storm, expecting only to save a life. What happened next had changed everything: her perspective, her people, and perhaps the galaxy itself. Humans were not just survivors, they were extraordinary,